What is up YouTube? Welcome back to the Rogue Painter channel for another episode of Mortal Realms Monday. For this episode we're doing something a little bit different, as although it accompanies issue 7, as it is episode 7, issue 7 didn't contain any miniatures. So what we're going to do today is show you how to paint an alternate scheme for your Stormcast. And for this we're going to be painting the Knights of Azyr. Also, just before we get started, you may notice throughout the video that some of the audio may not be in sync with the video, as I recorded the entire video over the course of just over 2 hours, only to find the mic was muted. So I'm now having to do a fun little voiceover. Right, so first of all we're going to take some Calidor Sky base paint, and this is going to be used for all of the blue areas. So you want to thin it down slightly and get 2 to 3 thin layers of paint down rather than one thick layer. This way we get a nice smooth coat of paint down without any brush strokes or streaks showing in it. So you want to apply this to the cloak here, the feet and legs, the arms and gloves, and the head, and also around the neck area there. So if you guys would like to go and get on with that, all your blue done, it should look something like this. And then we are going to take some Abaddon black and use this to paint the areas in between the elbows and under the armpits. Usually we would apply this behind the knees, but we can't see them there, so as you can see, just in the area that I'm doing here, and then under his left and right armpit. Also anywhere that is going to be silver, which I do believe is just the chain that he has down across the front of his robe there, and also his belt. Also across the soul shard gem that he has on his belt, the small strap along the center of that will be black also. So we'll get on with that and we'll be back in a bit. Okay, so once we've got that finished, we're going to take some Mournfang brown, there you go, and we're going to apply this to all the areas that will be gold. This will give us a good base for the Retributor armor gold that we're going to do. I find if you put it onto grey or white, it doesn't come off quite as well. Black can give okay, but if you've got a grey or white primer, then I find a base coat of Mournfang brown. So you want to do the rim of the shoulder guards there, the thing there that goes around his helmet, the kneecap emblem there, as well as the hammer, both the top portions and the pommel at the bottom there. And there is also part on the scroll there, I do believe I miss it, that part there will also be gold. So if you guys want to go ahead and apply your Mournfang brown, again slightly thinned down, a couple of even layers, and we'll be back in just a bit. Okay, so once all those grey areas done, next we are going to apply some Mephiston red to the leather straps just under the front tabard here, as well as the inside of the blue robe, and also the handle of the axe there. So that's the inside of the blue robe there. So if you guys want to go ahead and get a couple of layers on that, get a nice even coverage, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Okay, so the next colour will be some Xandri dust, and this is going to be applied to the scrolls. So you got this one here, and then there is one on the back side, and you just want to get a good couple of layers on this as usual, get it nice and smooth, and we'll jump back in a second. Okay, so next up we're going to take some Druchii Violet, and this is going to shade all of our blue areas. You can use a blue wash or shade if you like. I prefer the Druky Violet as it gives a slightly warmer tone to those deeper recesses. So you just want to apply this all over the miniature, focusing on the deep recesses there. You don't want it going in too thick, you don't want, you know, any or too much pooling. Just some nice even coverage over the entire blue of the model. I've thinned it down slightly there just to bring it up to the highlight point, as obviously we don't need to cover the highlights. So if you guys want to go ahead and apply this to all of the blue, and we will come back once that has dried. Okay, once that's been applied, next we're going to take some Reikland Flesh Shade and apply this to all of the scrolls, getting it right down into the engravings on them. Let that pool so it goes quite dark in there, and yeah, as you can see, I just apply that over the entire thing. So if you guys want to go ahead and do that, we'll be back in just a tick. Okay, next up we're going to take some Retributor armor, and this will be our gold color. So again, thin it down slightly, and we want to apply this over everywhere that we put the Mournfang brown. So again, that's the rim of the shoulder guards, all of the gold emblems, the one on the shoulder guard and the kneecap, as well as the hammer. You can also do the rim of the shield and the gold emblem on the front of the shield if you like at this stage as well. Okay, so now for applying some highlights and base color back to our blue here. So we're just going to take some more of that Calidor Sky, thin it down slightly, and just go over any of the large flat areas that are raised up. None of the recesses. We keep our Druky Violet in the recesses, but we're just aiming for any of those high points and to come down maybe 2/3 of the way towards the deepest recesses. And as you apply each layer, stop just slightly short of where the last layer ended. That way you'll get a nice graduation of value from dark to light as we apply more and more layers. So as you can see, we go across the kneecap on the robe here and the larger flat area above it, just down the sides of the peaks here. As you can see, I'm not going all the way down, I'm just sort of picking up the high points and 2/3 of the way down. So yeah, just go around the model and pick out anywhere where you would like the base coat. Remember, the Druky Violet is just for the deepest shadows, and then we'll build up to the lightest points using this layering method. So if you like to go and do that, and we'll jump back in just a sec to see what it should look like. Okay, once you're done, you should have something that looks like this with the nice graduation from the Druky Violet. And we're going to now take some Othwan Grey, and this is going to be our main white. Essentially it's white just with a hint of grey to it. So we're going to apply this over the shoulder pauldrons and the tabard front and back. What you want to do is try to leave a slight rim of the Dawnstone Grey between the Othwan Grey that we're going to apply just around the edge there and the gold, and then a small area in the middle. So we want to pick off this area here and the rim across the top there. Again, this is slightly thinned down so that we can get a bit more of a smooth graduation. So what I'm doing here is just working out where the brightest area will be, and then I will thin it again slightly just to go over that area between, so that we get some highlight area there. as you can see, I'm just leaving a thin line just around the edge there of that Dawnstone Grey, as we don't need too much of a shadow for this. As it is the top of the pauldrons, the light is shining straight down on it, it's not going to cause a huge amount of shadow. So now you can see I'm just going over that centre area that was slightly too dark with some thinned down Ulth1 and blending that down in, and that will just take down the darkness of the Dawnstone slightly. So if you like to go and do that to both pauldrons and the robe, use the same method we did with the blue for the robes for the Ulth1 on the tabard and the hood there, and we'll be back in just a bit. Okay, so now that that's done, we're going to take some white scar, and this will be our highlight. So we're going to thin it slightly. Now what I'm going to do is just pull the brush back through the paint, flattening the brush, and then with the edge of the brush just go in and edge highlight all the high points of the Ulth1 Grey there. And what that will do is make our grey look more white. So again, you can see with this I'm picking up more than just the edge, just going in slightly over that grey, leaving in the Dawnstone and a small amount of the Ulth1. So if you'd like to go ahead and do this to your miniature. Okay, so next up we're going to take some Teclis blue, and we're going to make a mix, a 50-50 mix of the blue with the Calidor Sky, and we're going to use this to edge highlight all of the blue areas on the robe and the armour. So same as we did with the white, we're going to pull the brush through to give some flat bristles, and then we're just going to pick off anywhere we think the light might touch. So the bottom portion of the robes here, as the upper area will be shaded by his back, we can apply a small amount to some of the highest points. Obviously this will do all the robe, the rim of his neck, around his gloves and hands, and also across his boots, feet, and the top of his head. Just apply a small area just off to the side on the top of his head. So if you'd like to go and pick out all those high points. Okay, now with that done, we're going to take some bleached bone, and with not too much on the brush, that is quite dry, we're just going to cover the scrolls here very lightly over the top, just picking off the highest points and sort of the flat surfaces, but we don't want any of this to go into the area that we shaded with the wash. So very carefully, like I say, there's not a lot of paint on the bristles. It's slightly more than you would have if you were dry brushing, but not enough that you go down into the recesses. So obviously front and back, and the smaller one down on his side there as well. So if you'd like to go and do that, and we'll be back in a tick. Okay, next up we're going to take some Evil Sunz Scarlet, and this will be for highlighting the shaft of the maul that he's got, and also the leather area of his robes here. So again, just edge highlighting, picking off some of the higher points. We didn't need to shade this, as the Mephiston red is a nice deep red anyway, and the Evil Sunz will just highlight that. So with the under area here, obviously layer over the majority of the robe, and just leave those darker areas near the leg and the underfold in the Mephiston. And for the handle, we'll use a dry brush effect. So obviously remove the majority of the paint off of your brush, and then just stroke that down across the handle, and that will pick up the highlights there. So if you'd like to go on and do that, we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, next up we're going to take some Stormhost Silver, and we're going to use this to highlight the edges of our gold. So apply a small amount to your palette. Not a lot is needed for this, as it's just some small highlights. And then if you go ahead and pick off any of the chain there, obviously, and also any of the rivets around the miniature across his red area. There's some rivets on the ends of those. And then for the gold areas, we'll just wait for me to get there. So I do apologise for the way that this video has been done, guys. I know it's not the best quality. Unfortunately, once you've painted a miniature, it's very hard to go back and repaint it, re-record it and everything. So with a voiceover, it does make it a little bit difficult. But if you have enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe for future videos. So as you can see, I'm picking off the rivets on the shoulder guard there. And then once we get to the highlighting of the shoulder guard, I'll explain that. So just a few more around the edges. Right, so again, with flattening the brush down as we're pulling through the paint, and all we're going to do is edge highlight the higher of the rounded areas. So there's 3 of them on each shoulder pauldron. So you've got the one here, obviously we don't want to go down into the dip, another one here, and then the one on the back, and then obviously the same on this side. And then also you want to do the gold edges of the hammer, essentially just picking off anywhere you think the light would make contact. But the idea is to not make solid lines all the way across an edge, just focus it on some areas. You can see I'm sort of dabbing the brush backwards and forwards on here, focusing more on the corners and the points where the light would pick up the most. So if you'd like to go and apply this to your models, and then we can jump back in just a bit. Right, so there we have it, guys, the completed model along with his custom base. I will put a link up in the top corner there so you can see how that is made. Go and check that out. If you like the video, then please hit that thumbs up button, check my links down in the description, and I will catch you guys next time. Thanks a lot.